What is up, guys? So I've got my Orcust deck profile for you here today. This deck is so good. I mean, it's just really good at forcing itself in the meta because it's got so many different starters, so many different ways you can build it. You've got the scrap engine, the mech knight engine, and I've kind of put them all together to make this very resilient and effective deck. I like going first with this, but you can make it as a going second deck as well. So without further ado, I'm going to get into that Orcust deck profile. So I'll start off with the Orcust cards. We play 3 Orcust Gearsu, very nice start cards. So happy to have it. I'm going to tutor any of your Orcust or World Legacy cards to the graveyard, which is amazing. So there are a couple different things. Most of the time you would send Nightmare to the graveyard with this, but another play you can do is send the World Armor, link it into Live the World Key Blade Master. Wow, what a tongue twister. And then you can play on from there instead. That's another play you can do, which is really nice. Moving on, we have 3 Nightmare. This is the best card in the deck now just because it tutors any of your Orcust to the graveyard. I mean, well, the second best. I guess Orcust Gearsu is the best now, but this is your second best. So your standard combo obviously is going to be Orcust Gearsu into Nightmare, Nightmare into World 1 to special summon the Nightmare that you just banished into the Galatea, which is going to be setting up your field very nicely. But yeah, we like Nightmare at 3. I definitely think that this card is the only one that I would never take down for it, just because I'm never unhappy to see it. Even in my hand, there's a lot of ways to get it out of your hand. Moving on, we play 2 World 1. World 1 allows you to special summon a banished Orcust monster. It does lock you into darks, but it's not a huge issue in this deck, especially because all of your non-dark monsters are your starters, so it doesn't matter if you're locked into darks. At that stage in the game, you're just finishing off your Orcust plays. And then moving on, we play 2 Symbol Skeleton, the monster reborn from the graveyard. That's really nice. And 1 Brass Bombard. I only play Brass Bombard really for Halka Fibrax play because that's a secondary play you can do if you are stopped or slowed down by your opponent. Then moving on from the Orcust cards, we have a scrap engine. So we play 3 scrap recycler, 1 fridge, and 1 scrap wyvern in the extra deck. That is, again, I mean, if you can start looping scrap recycler, especially with World Legacy Succession, you get to dump so many cards for free. I mean, it's insane. Your opponent really won't be able to deal with it because you just get so much value. And once your cards in rotation in Orcust, the game is usually it's over for your opponent because it's so hard for them to stop you. You banish a card, then you special summon it, then it goes back to your graveyard, then you banish it, then you special. You get so much advantage. It's just really good. So scrap recycle works really well at facilitating that and starting that off for you. And you obviously have the fridge, and on top of that, they also give you a free pop as well, which is going to be nice on top of that. Then we have Grepher and Armageddon Knights, which are just additional starters in your deck. Same with Gizmek. You don't really matter once you've got one of each of your Orcust cards in your graveyard and out of your deck. You don't really care what you banish, and so that's why you can afford to have the Gizmek and just keep banishing cards just for pushing for game and stuff like that. Gizmek is a really good card, and I definitely would recommend playing that in your Orcust builds. Then we also play 1 Jet Synchron, 1 Brass Bombard, 1 Mecha Phantom Beast Lion. So the reason behind this, my logic on this was simple as this. In Orcust, it's rare, but it will happen sometimes that you won't be able to get to an Orcust card, and so when that does happen, you have the Jet Synchron as kind of like an alternative play to get into the Halka Fibrax. Or if, for example, you have a Gizmek and an Ash Blossom, that's another way to get into your Halka Fibrax. That will allow you to drag a Brass Bombard up from your deck and at least allow you to get to a Galatea and a Dengesu, which can be useful if you do need it. So that's why I do play that 1 Brass, because it's not really bad to see, and it does allow you to kind of still play the game. You don't even necessarily have to do it. You could just kind of link into a Link 3 and a Link 4 instead if you wanted to do that, but it does kind of give you a route when you don't see any Orcust cards whatsoever, which is nice. And then obviously the Mecha Phantom Beast O-Line, similarly, it's just for that extra token. I'm not playing Auroradon. I don't think Auroradon is necessary. It's very easy to dump to the graveyard via your scrap recycler, and then it's going to give you a free token, which is lovely. And then more Halka Fibrax plays as well if you want to do them. Moving on from that, we also play 3 Ash Blossom as well. Ash Blossom is just a good card. There's no reason to not play it in this deck, just to kind of slow down your opponent. Then we play the 2 Allure of Darkness. We don't care if we banish most of our Orcust cards because they're very easy to get back. 1 Orchestrated Return just for the draws. Upstart Goblin, similarly. Foolish Burial, because it can start your combos off very nicely. 2 World Legacy Sessions. So I used to only play 1, but then I watched a very interesting video by someone, and they made a good point that it's because of the way this deck works, it's very easy to get arrows, and so most of the time you're not upset to hard draw at least one of them, but you will be upset if you don't get the search when you're going for your combo. So I think it is worth playing those 2 World Legacy Succession, just because it's always good. There's so many ways to search it as well. You've got your regular Mech Knight, you've got your Live the World Key Blade Master. I mean, it's a really, really good card. Then we play 3 Forbidden Droplet. This deck loves to discard, and that's why I play Forbidden Droplet, because you want most of your Orcust in the graveyard anyway, and so it's nice to have this to negate your opponent's monsters as well. Then we play the 1 Babble and Crescendo, because they're good cards again in Orcust, there's no reason to not play them, and 3 Imperm so that you don't get locked out of the game. Moving away from that into the extra deck, we play 1 Almirage, which is going to combo off with a couple of different cards. So you have things like, if you have a Brass Bombard, you could normal summon that, go into Almirage, and then if you have another Orcust in hand, now you can banish a Brass Bombard to summon that and go into your plays. You can also use this for getting into your Hauke Fibrax plays with things like your Jet Synchron and such. Then we play 1 Masquerade, a very good card for Orcust, 1 Hauke Fibrax, again I've explained that, Scrap Riven, another good card, 2 Galatea, 3 Galatea is good in this deck, but I did go down to 2 just because I have got a tiny bit of a tweak on the deck with my Mech Knight of the Morning Star for going second, so that's why I only play 2, but you can still do a lot with 2 Galateas. This is such a good link monster to have. Moving on, we have 1 Mech Knight of the Morning Star, so this is actually very easy to make in this deck, so you can either make him with your Orcust Gearsu just by normal summoning, or when going second and you side in these Mech Knight cards, you can also make him with that, which is really, really nice. Moving on, we have the 1 Lib the World Key Blade Master, very strong link monster. She also shuffles a card back, so having a Lib plus a Masquerade on field is a really hard thing for your opponent to deal with, because then you can get 2 shuffles if you go into a Unicorn. Moving on, we have 1 Non-Gearsu, nice to have, obviously, Appaloosa and Access Code and Topologic. These are your link 4s. You do have a lot of link 4s in this deck just because it's very easy to put a lot of link materials on the field. You can keep summoning Galateas for free, for example, and so that's why you can afford to have so many high link rated monsters. 1 Dingirsu, I don't think you need more than 1 most of the time, and also obviously spaces in the deck for other things, so Dingirsu at 1, and the 1 Savage Dragon. So this is another slight twist on the deck. It's quite easy to get to the Savage Dragon because you have these 2 tuners, which are very, very easy to get on the field, and if you bring out a Savage Dragon mid-game, because you're always going to have one of these link rated monsters in the graveyard, it's going to be hard for your opponent to deal with as well. So I really do like Savage Dragon. It's just kind of like a one-off in the extra deck to go in and to really slow down your opponent. It's also easy to go into in your first turn as well. Moving away from that into our extra deck, so I'll start off with the Nibiru's and the Dark Ruler and Phantasmes, and those are just kind of generic going second cards. I don't really feel like this deck needs too much to specifically deal with back row, just because they have a lot of different ways of dealing with back row in the main deck, so I don't think it's hugely necessary, but you can replace them with things like Evenly and Lightning Storm. But what I have done, which is slightly different with this deck, is I've put in a kind of big Mech Knight package for going second. And what I tend to do when going second is I will side out my Scrap Engine, I'll side out the I'll side out my Grapha, my Scrap Engine, and my Armageddon Knights for the Mech Knights instead, because I really do think the Mech Knights are just so good and they guarantee me getting to that gear suit. If you have 3 purples and 2 blues, I mean, you have 3 purples, 2 blues, and the 3 gear suits. It's so easy to get that card, and you get so much value from the Mech Knights, and you can do those plays first before going into your Orcust plays, which is lovely. I'll just play 1 World Legacy Secret just so that you can do, and 1 Secret and 1 Indigo, so you can do those Mech Knight plays of moving your cards around and negating your opponent's plays. So this is another really, really, really good kind of feature of this, and this is why I have the Mech Knight of the Morning Star in my main deck as well, because this is kind of like an alternate play I can do go second. I really love doing that. It slows down your opponent, and they're also a bit confused sometimes, because sometimes they'll see me playing Orcust first, siding stuff to deal with Orcust, but then suddenly, and like maybe they'll lock off my graveyard, but then suddenly I'm playing on the field with Mech Knights instead, and my opponent doesn't know what to do about it. So it's a really, really nice kind of bait and switch you can do for your opponent. So I do like having that big Mech Knight package to kind of smoke screen into Mech Knight Orcust when you're going second. But guys, that is my Orcust build. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, comment, and let me know what you want to see next, and be sure to subscribe to my channel, guys. I'll talk to you all later. Peace.